Hare Krishna. It's April 19th, 2026. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 7. Text 7. And, yes. So, here in person there's Lakshmi Priya and Rasamrita, also known as Bhaktin Rose Murray. And online there's Sylvan, Reina, Ananta Shakti, Fabiana, Urzina, and Anandini.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva padreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yutamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. So Chapter 9 of Canto 3, Text 7. Daivena te hattadiyo bhavata prasangat sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriya ye kurvanti kamasukha leshalavaya dina lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat devena te hatatiyo bhavata prasanga sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriyaye kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat devena te hatadiyo bhavata prasanga sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriyaye kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat devena te hatadiyo bhavata prasangat sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriyaye kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina
Kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina.
Lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat.
Lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat.
Naivena te hatadiyo bhavata prasanga.
Devena te hatadiyo bhavata prasanga.
Sarva shubho pashamanan vimukhendriyaye.
Sarva shubho pashamanad vimukendriyaye.
Kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina.
Kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina.
Lobha hibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat.
Lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat.
Davena te hatadiyo bhavata prasanga.
Devena te atadiyo bhavata prasangat.
Sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriyaye.
Sarva shubho pashamanad vimukendriyaye.
Kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina.
Kurvanti kama sukalesha lavaya dina.
Lobha vibhuta manashokula kushalena shashvat.
Lobha vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat. Would anyone online like to recite the verse? Okay, we'll study the word meanings responsibly. Devena,
Devena,
by fate of misfortune.
by fate of misfortune.
Te,
Te,
they.
they.
Hatadiya,
Hatadiya,
bereft of memory.
bereft of memory.
Bhavata,
Bhavata,
of you.
of you.
Prasangat,
Prasangat,
from the topics.
from the topics.
Sarva,
Sarva,
all.
all.
Ashubha,
Ashubha,
inauspiciousness.
inauspiciousness.
Upashamanat,
Upashamanat,
curbing down.
curbing down.
Vimukha,
Vimukha,
turned against.
turned against.
Indriya,
Indriya,
senses.
senses.
Yea,
Yea,
those.
those.
Kurvanti,
Kurvanti,
act.
act.
Kama,
Kama,
sense gratification.
sense gratification.
Sukha,
Sukha,
happiness.
happiness.
Lesha,
Lesha,
brief.
brief.
Lavaya,
Lavaya,
for a moment only.
for a moment only.
Dina,
Dina,
poor fellows.
poor fellows.
Lobha abhibhuta,
Lobha abhibhuta,
overwhelmed by greed.
overwhelmed by greed.
Manasa,
Manasa,
of one whose mind.
of one whose mind.
Akushalani,
Akushalani,
inauspicious activities.
inauspicious activities.
Shashvat,
Shashvat,
always.
always.
Translation. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. So, just for some context, this is Lord Brahma, who is the head of our Sampradaya, and we can call it the engineer of the universe. He's speaking to Krishna here, and this is narrated by Maitreya Muni to Vidura. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The next question is why people are against such auspicious activities as chanting and hearing the glories and pastimes of the Lord, which can bring total freedom from the cares and anxieties of material existence. The only answer to this question is that they are unfortunate because of supernatural control due to their offensive activities performed simply for the sake of sense gratification. The Lord's pure devotees, however, take compassion upon such unfortunate persons and, in a missionary spirit, try to persuade them into the line of devotional service. Only by the grace of pure devotees can such unfortunate men be elevated to the position of transcendental service. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Garange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchikalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 7. Devena te hatatiyo bhavata prasangat sarva shubho pashamanad vimukhendriyaye kurvanti kama sukalesha lavayadina lobhavi bhutamanaso kushalani shashvat. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. Hare Krishna. It's described in the Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yedge Sankir Tana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumei Dasaha. Well, actually, it's a text from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is eternal, but revealed about 5,000 years ago, and it predicts the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. It describes that Krishna will appear in a yellowish, non-blackish form in the age of Kali, and he'll focus on the Yuga Dharma Sankirtan. So this is one of several verses from the Bhagavatam, and many verses from Mahabharata, the ancient Vedas, that predict the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. And it's described that the prime yagya recommended, just like 8 days ago at Nalini Kanta and Ratneshwari's ashram, we had a yagya for initiation. And it was like a fire yagya. Yogeshwar Prabhu, husband of Ladini Shakti, came from Czech Republic and he conducted the yagya. And so, so different yagyas. And so the main yagya recommended for the sage for self-realization and, well, to reference some, just yesterday we were immersed in chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, to transfer our consciousness from the reflected tree to the real banyan tree. That's the metaphor that Krishna starts chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita with. This chanting of the names of the whole of God, chanting of the names of the God, and it's described that those with spiritual intelligence will engage in this Sankirtan. Kirtan means glorification, and Kirtan can take so many forms. If we're speaking from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, that's a form of Kirtan. Generally, Kirtan is known as like in the form of singing the names of God. My namesake, David HaMelech, King David from the Bible. If we read what he was doing, he was dancing around Jerusalem, dressed in robes, and he was singing and dancing ecstatically, chanting the names of God with his associates. And it's described with the timbrels, and the Hebrew is chilchilim, which is essentially the kartals, the chilchilim and the drums. So in any bona fide spiritual tradition, there's the chanting of the names of the divine. So that's most, for different reasons, and for different reasons, it's most recommended to cleanse the heart, achieve self-realization, and awaken our natural love of God in this age. And so Lord Brahma is emphasizing that, oh my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your activities are certainly unfortunate and also bereft of good sense. So this is spiritual intelligence. It's like a spiritual IQ test, IQ test. And yeah, so it's described, yes, it's described. Well, this is a theme. We can't go very far, can't go even up like 2 or 3 pages anywhere in Prabhupada's books or lectures without hearing about chanting the names of Krishna. And so this is a major theme, along with like, we're not this body, we're not this body. We'll hear that again and again, like that. Different major pillars for us to get it, and Prabhupada's communicating so we get it. And the start of the 6th canto of, I think on Thursday, Lakshmi Priya, you're going to be giving a class from the 5th canto, if I remember you.
Yeah, John Murray.
Yeah, anyway, that's fun. That's fun. Okay. The start of the 6th canto is like so much about chanting. And it's the start of the 6th canto, it has Shukadeva Goswami, who is actually teacher, and Maharaj Parikshit, he's student, but they're switching roles. Shukadeva Goswami, he's in the role of teacher, because okay, all right, just some Bhagavatam landscape. So, the 5th canto, the last chapter is chapter 26, and it's described description of the hellish planets, and describes 28 categories of hellish existence. We won't go into it here, but they're really atrocious and gruesome and horrific and terrible. Okay, terrible torture and suffering. Now, in this Bhagavad Gita Vaishnav, in this approach, there is no eternal damnation. You're going to burn in hell forever. Okay, like everything is meant Om Purnam as like a rehabilitation, and the spirit soul always has opportunity to be spiritually intelligent, surrender to God in a spirit of bhakti, like that. So there is no like eternal hell, but there's different suffering conditions, and it's not theoretical, even if we don't go into cosmology and different planetary systems, which is there in the 5th canto quite a bit. In our lives, we can each look at our lives, and we've experienced terrible, terrible hell, and we've experienced heavenly pleasures too. Okay, or we can read the news and just like terrible, hellish, whether on the physical platform, the mental platform, the emotional platform. Okay, so terrible, hellish situations are described, and then the 6th canto begins with Maharaj Parikshit asking his teacher, his guru, Shukadeva Goswami, so how can we avoid going there? How can we not go there? So Shukadeva Goswami, he begins to respond. And he responds with, there's karma yoga. Let's say you've done something that implicates you in suffering because you've caused suffering to others. Well, there's a way to compensate for it, to counteract it. And it's described in the Vedas. It's called karma kanda. And then Maharaj Parikshit says, well, okay, but nah, I don't accept. And then Shukadeva says, oh, you don't accept that? Man, I'm your teacher and everything. Oh, you don't accept. And he says, okay, well then there's jnana. There's through analytical study, we can realize the futility of material existence. And he describes a few different processes and paths, which are all Vedic. And to each one, Maharaj Parikshit is with all due respect, Guruji, nah, accept. I don't accept. So then Shukadeva Goswami eventually goes to, you're an intelligent student, because I was just kind of testing you. Because all these other processes, yeah, they might counteract some suffering, and they might give some knowledge, not necessarily wisdom, but they give some knowledge like that. And, okay, they all have their place, but they don't get at the root of the desire itself. They don't pull out the root of the desire itself to perform sinful activities. When we use the term sin, we like to quote St. Augustine, who says, we're not punished by sin. We're not punished for sin, we're punished by sin. Meaning sin defined essentially as anything we do, say, or think that alienates myself from myself and my integrity and from the very source and substratum of my existence, the highest guidance within, God in the heart, devotional service, anything that I do that is self-sabotaging for myself and others, that's sin. Okay. And so the desire to do things that are foolish and implicate us in suffering and misery, these other processes, they don't pull the very root of desire. They might counteract and compensate, but then I'm going to do the same thing. An example given in the Bhagavatam, and I don't know why elephants do this, but elephants do this. So an elephant will apparently be all dusty from the sand and go into the lake and cleanse itself and take a bath. And then afterwards, the elephant will get back on the shore, and with its trunk, it'll pour sand on itself again. We could do some research in...
We kind of do the same thing.
What's that?
I said we kind of do the same thing.
That's it. That's the metaphor, exactly.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Exactly, yeah.
It's still your punchline.
That's it. No, that's it. So these other processes, yeah, they might do some cleansing, but then the desire to make ourselves dirty again through lust and anger and greed, kamesha, krodesha, rajaguna, tamud, bhava, mahashano, mapama, vidinami, the desire is still there. So that's why Maharaj Parikshit, as an intelligent disciple who was paying attention, said, I don't accept these processes. They can be helpful, but they don't pull the root. And then Shukadeva Goswami goes to Tasmat Sankirtanam Vishnur Jangan Mangalam Ash Amhasam Matam Apikuravya Vijayantiki Niskritam. He says, okay, so this kirtan, chanting and hearing the names of the Supreme, that pulls at the very root. Bhagavad Gita verse chapter 2, Vishyana Vinivartante Niraharasya Denam Rasovarja Masopyasya Param Drishtra Nivartate. And Krishna says, as a general principle, we're not going to give up a lower taste unless we have a higher taste to replace it with. Actually, tomorrow, we're going to go back after 6 weeks to a PPTC Part 2 module, and Sylvan will be there. And as part of Level 2, we're going to get into habit change from a coaching perspective. And if we look at the research on habit change, completely consistent with Bhagavad Gita, that generally we can change it, we can get rid of the cigarette habit or the drinking habit, but unless we have something that gives a higher taste to replace it with, we're going to be like the elephant and continue to dirty ourselves. So whether it's mundane, I just say sociological research, psychological research, or we need a higher taste. So Shukadeva Goswami affirms Maharaj Parikshit's skepticism. These other processes, they don't give the higher taste, so we're going to keep doing the same stuff. Maybe we'll get out of prison and then commit the same thievery and be back in prison, because that desire is still there. But he said, but this chanting, this Sankirtan, he said, this Sankirtan is the most auspicious movement in the universe. And he says, and please get this and share it with others. Realize it's the most auspicious activity in the universe. Complete glorification of the name name, form, pastimes, qualities of Sri Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, or any legitimate form of Godhead. Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Sri Sri Sita Ram, Sri Sri Lakshmi Narayan, Lakshmi Nrsingadev, any of the legitimate, genuine expansions of the Supreme. And just this morning, before Japa, we read a text from the second canto. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shotavya Kititavyascha Smartavyas Chittatabayam. Shukadev Goswami, again speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and he said, to relieve ourselves of the miseries that are intrinsic to material life, this hearing, chanting, and remembering about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this to actually pull out the root, the desire to get ourselves again entangled in more and more layers upon layers of the material context, material miseries. This again, Shotavya Kititavyascha, hearing and chanting the names of God. It's the most recommended process. Sri Krishna, well, early in the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami describes Shrinvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidyantasto Yabhajani Viduno Ti Suritseta. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the Paramatma in the heart of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, personally cleanses desire for material enjoyment for the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, to hear and chant his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted and understood. And so, okay, so here it's described, Prabhupada has a sentence here. Well, first of all, he talks about chanting and hearing the glories and pastimes of the Lord, which can bring total freedom from the cares and anxieties of material existence. Like, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? And there's so many, there's pages and pages of texts and verses about chanting and hearing. There's one spoken by Maharaj Parikshit at the start of the 10th canto. Nivrita Tarsher Upagiyamanad Badval Sadach Chatra Mano Biramat Ka Utamashloka Ka Utamashloka Unanu Vadat Puman Vivajeta Vina Pashubnat. He says, yeah, who would not relish hearing and chanting the name and pastimes of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, other than one who's dedicated to spiritual suicide? And he said, one who's the killer of the soul. Okay, very graphic, heavy descriptions. So Prabhupada says the only answer to this question is that they are unfortunate because of supernatural control due to their offensive activities performed simply for the sake of sense gratification. Offensive activities. Okay. So, so there's that interplay. Is it grace or works in Christian theology? That's there a lot. Grace or works. And then there's, so here we have it's a synergistic integration. We like to use that quote a lot. Work, like everything depends on me. Pray, like everything depends on Krishna. Whether it's a service I'm doing, organizing some bhakti program, washing the dishes in Krishna's kitchen, any service, chanting japa, we're encouraged, give our full 100% effort, like everything depends on us, while cultivating realization. Ultimately, if my heart's to be cleansed and the weeds are to be pulled, ultimately, that's up to Krishna. It's up to Krishna. So not to misuse that, not to take God out of the equation, like I'm a rugged individualist and I make my destiny. And okay, yeah, let's work hard, internally and externally, in our bhakti. Work hard, and let's not take the most important factor out of the equation, the super soul Paramatma within the heart. Krishna personally But then it's, sometimes we hear this term like causeless grace or causeless mercy. Causeless doesn't mean random, whimsical, accidental, just frivolous. Krishna and Prabhupada is just like, whoa, it's just like, causeless means it's not pulled and pushed by the material modes of nature, by desire, gross or subtle material desire. It's not like a business deal. It's not pulled and pushed by desire for profit, popularity, compliments, adoration, distinction, like that. It's completely, as Prabhupada says here, the Lord's pure devotees, however, take compassion upon such unfortunate persons. It's from pure compassion. Okay, and so Krishna's saying, like, if we're rigorous and working hard in our process of kirtan and japa and doing service and following the sadhana program of a pure devotee, then Krishna doesn't have to. He doesn't have to help us cleanse our hearts. But naturally, just like a mom or dad, a parent sees the sincere child, naturally the parent reciprocates. Not out of have to, but naturally out of love, and naturally out of love for the spirit soul, the child, for the relationship. So only by the grace of pure devotees can such unfortunate men be elevated to the position of transcendental service. So, so we don't want to take the pure devotee, God, out of the equation. Neither do we want to use it. Well, it's all up to Krishna anyway, so I'll just lounge around on the sofa and watch some TV, and we'll see what Krishna wants, I'm reminded here of Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada is certainly one of those Lord's pure devotees who take compassion upon such unfortunate persons, and in a missionary spirit try to persuade them into the line of devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada, he was doing fine, just blissful at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, India, 1965. He's there overlooking the samadhi of Rupa Goswami at the Radha Damodar temple established by Jiva Goswami 500 years ago. He's writing books, he's blissful in Vrindavan. Everyone's Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. In Vrindavan, it's not so much Hare Krishna, it's more Jai Radhe, evoking the feminine essence of the divine. Hare Krishna. But Prabhupada, out of compassion, at the age of about 70, he gets on the Jaladuta, which is not a luxury cruise liner. It's a very rough, austere cargo ship. And he was sponsored by Sumati Murarji. Sumati Murarji, she's a Vaishnava in the Vallabhacharya Bhakti line. That's in the line of Nimbarkacharya. This is a bona fide Vaishnava line, bona fide Bhakti. Not through Lord Chaitanya, and not through Lord Brahma, through the Nimbarka. There's Prabhupada often cautions, there's all sorts of deviant nonsense going on in the name of bhakti. And that's not just recently, but going back hundreds of years. Prabhupada, representing Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, representing Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. Sometimes he'll list 13 types of groups that are fluff and bluff, deviant bhakti groups. Okay? And so Prabhupada's cautioning about them. Shruti Smriti Purnati Pancharatra Vidimbina Akantihi Harer Bhakti Utpatayaiva Kalpate that even if it's bhakti, but it's not in the line of an authorized sampradaya. And there are four major authorized bhakti sampradayas. Then even if it's bhakti not authorized, it becomes a disturbance. There might be some benefit there. Might be, as an example, we might consider the, let's say if someone wants to get a PhD in physics or something. Okay, so then there's different bona fide universities. You can go to University of Florida, you can go to University of Pennsylvania, you can go to Cambridge, you can go to Oxford. Bona fide universities. And each, the professors and the program might naturally have its different flavor, different emphasis about how they teach. So there's differences, but they're all respected and bona fide. That's different than, oh, I saw this thing on the internet for $25. I can get a PhD in physics, and yeah, pretty good, huh? Pretty good.
The Rye Institute.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, like that. So Prabhupada's saying there's bona fide lines. There's bona fide lines, and they're not all through Srila Prabhupada or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Four basic bona fide lines, one coming through Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yata Sambhu. Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava, one coming through Mother Lakshmi, one coming through Brahma, and one coming through the four Kumaras, the four Kumaras, who are the sons of Brahma. And then in more, so the Lakshmi Sampradaya, maybe a few hundred years ago, comes through a great Acharya, Ramanujacharya, and anyhow, this I went on a tangent, but I'm glad I did. That's relevant. So these different bona fide lines, different flavors of bhakti, and some might focus on Radha Krishna, some might focus on Sitaram, some might focus on Lakshmi Narayan, like that. Okay, different flavors, all bona fide. That's different than unfortunately, there's a lot going on in bhakti that is the fly by night. For just $25, I'll get you a PhD in physics, and you can be respected, and you'll be a professor at Harvard. So like Prabhupada, out of compassion, his caution was like, don't get fooled in the name of bhakti like that. So Samarthi Maharaji, she was a follower of Vallabhacharya, in the line of Nimbarkacharya, in the line of the four Kumaras, like that. And actually, Samarthi Maharaji and Prabhupada, there's lots of correspondence between them, and it gets edgy in very loving ways. They have disagreements. Philosophically. When Prabhupada came, he was 70. She was probably also about his age, like that. So they kind of like that, and so they challenge each other, and it's very sweet. It's very sweet and affectionate, but it does get edgy in very sweet ways. I'll put it that way. So Prabhupada, there's this poetry when he gets to Boston Harbor after having 2 heart attacks. So Prabhupada, he's just giving 1,108%. But he says, okay, look, one of my names is Bhaktivedanta, devotion and scholarship, knowledge. He said, look, Krishna, he writes to Krishna, I've got no devotion, I got no knowledge. I got no devotion, I got no knowledge. But if you want to make me dance here in USA, make me dance. This is up to you. So it's up to you. What can I do? Now Prabhupada's, he's resting maybe an hour and a half per night. He's getting up at 1 a.m. to give us his purports out of compassion. He's writing thousands of letters to guide his students. He's just teaching us everything. He's giving beyond what we can conceive, with the spirit of ultimate Krishna. If you want to make me dance, use me as an instrument on my own. I have no knowledge and devotion. So just like a perfect example of the integration there. Grace, grace, and work hard. Like that. Not that we want to imitate Prabhupada, and we can aspire to follow his example. And then, okay, well, coming to closure here, and I look forward to hearing any comments, sharing, questions. Prabhupada uses the term, the only answer to this question is that they are unfortunate because of supernatural control due to their offensive activities performed simply for the sake of sense gratification. Okay, offensive activities. So this term offenses, we hear that a lot. I don't use it a lot, just like I don't use the term sin a lot, like that, because I like to get to the essence, and different terminologies support getting to the essence, and different terminologies. Prabhupada's always giving up. Prabhupada is always 100% connected with the very substratum and essence of our existence. So everything from Prabhupada is essential, is transcendental, is Shastra. And then part of our service, part of my service, is to use my intelligent discretion how to communicate what I receive from Prabhupada in language and nonverbals that'll communicate. So I don't use the term offensive much. Even actually, after last Saturday's initiation yagya, we got lots of feedback. I've shared some of it with a few of you. Like very, very inspiring. In fact, some in this class right now have shared very touching feedback and like that. And was one very senior devotee who's been around even longer than me. I've been around since the early 80s. So she's been around since the early 70s, and she was ecstatic by the program last Saturday, like that. And she said, and I have some constructive feedback. I said, okay. And she had like 15 points. Oh my God. But she said it was ecstatic. I'm so happy this is happening. And here's a few points for your consideration. And one thing she mentioned, and like at least 12 of the points, I was like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, nothing I can say, I agree, like that, for sure. And then one of the points was she said that like at initiation lectures, Prabhupada often talked about the 10 offenses to the holy name. And we didn't, neither myself or Yogeshwar or the other speakers, we didn't mention that. So I said, that's true. I remember because I had a talk with Yogeshwar Prabhu. I said, in my part of the talk, I'm not going to talk about 10 offenses. Maybe you want to. And he was like, I'm not so much into it either. So we did talk. We were conscious of it, and we didn't go there. And okay, so offenses. Two basic types. I'm oversimplifying, and Prabhupada talks about this a lot. But so I'm not going to go into it much, just in the closing minutes. So one is, I'll call it relatively innocent offenses. And we don't want to take them lightly. But let's say, for example, let's say like the idea is right hand is for like service and worship, left hand is for cleaning. And let's say we're doing something with the left hand, like offering incense, that's supposed to be done with the right hand, because according to Ayurveda, it's a different thing. So it's kind of like, it's like an offense. Okay, all right. Or let's say it's the room is crowded, and we're walking by. Let's say we touch someone, anyone. We by accident we touch them with our feet. Just like to touch someone with your feet. It's kind of an offense like that. All right. So I'm going to put that in the category. It's kind of like innocent. And let's be conscious. Let's be conscious at the same time. That's not the sort of offenses that will really impede our progress in cleansing our heart and bhakti. And as far as those innocent, just like, let's say, if we're teaching someone to chant japa, and it's the first time, I'm going to 10 to 9, make sure you don't let the japa beads touch the ground, and don't take them, kind of like, it's like at certain levels of commitment to the practice, then we want to become more conscious of certain things. And if it's too early, then it's just like, this whole Krishna consciousness, so many rules and regulations, I just want to be free and have fun. And that's true. And Prabhupada quotes Krishna, Pachakshava Gamam Dhamyam Shushukam Kartumavyam This process is joyfully performed, and the rules and regulations are meant to support that full expression of the joyful, loving nature of the soul. And so, once Prabhupada, I think this was in Australia, and Prabhupada, it was maybe early 70s, and he installed Sri Sri Radha Krishna deities, and he gave some rules and regulations, because it's a high standard. It's not like in my home, I don't even know if I can call it a low standard. It's like no standard, okay, right? Like what, and that's deliberate. Like that. But and so Prabhupada, described, and these are like really new. Like they were even, because like those who, let's say, joined in New York or San Francisco in 66, 67, but in Australia, they had just joined like 6 months ago, and they were like, Prabhupada, this is a lot. And Prabhupada said, if I told you all the rules and regulations, you would faint. You would faint. So the idea is like, accept the rules and regulations. Smartavya Satyatam Vishnu Vismartavya. Expect the rules and regulations that help us to joyfully practice the rules of the road, and it's natural that maybe we'll accept more rules that support us as we go on, without letting it be an onerous burden, and without neglecting rules and regulations that will help us, and not getting so hung up in rules and regulations that we're missing the forest for the trees. It's just like we're all rules and regulations, but what about the essence of love and like that? So we want to avoid both extremes. Whimsically neglecting rules and regulations, it'll be helpful to support the essence, and getting fanatically attached to external rules and regulations at the expense of the essence. We're cautioned against both by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami. So then the type of offense that can really get in the way, that's if we're like, not just I did with my left hand should be my right hand. Okay, let me remember that for next time. All right, move on. But like, if like out of envy and greed, like if we're trying to interfere with a sincere devotee doing their service, Krishna doesn't like that. Like maybe it's gossip or slander, or we're just criticizing, not from compassion. It's one thing, because as aspiring conscious entities, devotees of Krishna, we don't want to fault find. We don't want to look for faults in anyone. At the same time, we're not wearing blinders. We're attuned to this seems off. This seems to be self-sabotaging. This seems really irritating. This seems to be a deviation. So we don't wear blinders. Dharma pujita kurtiftra paramamin nimat saranam satam. The highest truth is reality, distinguish from illusion for the welfare of all. So we're using our intelligence to distinguish what's aligned with an authentic path of bhakti, and what's interfering with it, what's a deviation, what's fluff and bluff. So, and then at the same time, so to notice, this is aligned, and this is a real disturbance. And then we get to determine to what extent is it my service to shine light on it, or is it my service to tolerate in silence? But then, like, if a fault-finding mentality that because I'm so empty in myself and out of my envy, I need to get some shadow feeling good about myself from bringing others down, and if we're trying to interfere grossly or subtly with the service of other aspiring devotees of Krishna, or highly realized devotees of God, then Krishna is not liking that. And that will really interfere. That will really interfere with our progress on the path. And so that's why, like, if we find ourselves just like, despite my efforts, I'm really struggling in the path. Sometimes it can be due towards offenses towards sincere souls. I'll read the text again. Devena te hatatiyo bhavata prasangat. Sarva shubho pashamana vimukendriyaye korvanti kama sukalesha labayadina loba vibhuta manaso kushalani shashvat. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. Very little while. Sense gratification is temporary. It brings no enduring fulfillment. Hare Krishna. Thanks for listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome any questions, comments, realizations at this time.
I want to share something about that. Hare Krishna, thank you for class. And I just had a thought of something that I experienced a long time ago when you were sharing the elephant and the washing
Yeah.
and getting dirty again. I could really relate to that. Like I could relate in my own life,
Yeah.
observing it, and like just we go and even just the literal take a shower, and then we just go right out and do things, put things on our body, interfere with the whole cleaning system, with our chanting, with everything.
Yes.
So then I was thinking about when I used to work this. I'd forgotten this, and it just kind of applies here in my heart. I was feeling, oh yeah, like it's totally aligned with parallel me understanding bhakti. Is when I had a catering business, we would hire people from the prison to come work when if they were in good behavior and they got to go to work release camp, then they could come out for some hours a day and do work. And they were excellent employees because they wanted to be out of there so bad that they would show up and do the work because it was that or sit in the holding cell.
Right.
And sometimes it would go in that they would be in that holding tank place for a year or two, ready to get out, but there was a lot of red tape and stuff. So we might have access to some really good employees that for a while, but some of them were so good at the food industry is really good for those kind of personalities because they're generally addictive behaviors and high rajasic energy. And so working a 12-hour shift, bussing tables or loading trucks or whatever, or being in the kitchen chopping carrots for 8 hours straight, like they were okay with that.
Yeah.
And so I would drive up there sometimes and say, okay, we've got a big weekend and I need like 12 of your guys or whatever. And I would go talk to the guy at the door that ran the place, the parole officer or whatever. And some of those guys were such good people, but they'd gotten off track, you know.
Yeah.
And so when I'd see them work and see their work ethic and their personality, I could see how much potential they had. So I would go talk to this guy about them, and I'd say, what can we do to help this person? And he'd say nothing. And it would aggravate me because I didn't have bhakti then. He says 100% failure rate here. They're all coming back. 100%. Yeah. And I remember feeling appalled. I remember trying to do what I could. Of course, I wasn't coming from a spiritual perspective at the time, so nothing I did worked either. But I tried over the years because there were some good girls and guys in there. But he told me that they all going to go back and do what they did. Yeah. And they're probably not even going to get out of here. Yeah. And go get free to do it. They're going to break it. They're going to mess it up before they even get out of here. Yeah. Because there's so much freedom in the bike ride or me picking them up to get from my business was only like 3 miles from there. So sometimes they would bike over. In between there, they would get back in trouble. Right. So he said, if you pick them up and you bring them back, there's less likelihood of that and you're going to have a longer lasting employee. Yes, yes. So he said it was 100%. I just couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. So then I was sitting here thinking while you were talking, I think it was 100%. Yeah. I don't remember one guy staying. Not one. And then I'm like, well, that's what we do. If we don't have bhakti, we're going to do it again. We don't have a higher taste, we're going to do it again. And so I was like feeling the heaviness of that for those poor people that don't have this grace of a pure devotee. I feel like, how the heck did I get in this scenario here? Because I could just as easily be out there. I'm on the outside doing the same thing. I just didn't get caught. Mine wasn't as severe. So I'm feeling gratitude.
As the saying goes, but for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's coming up for me. So then I thought, then I'm daydreaming about, I know there's Bhakti prison systems and there's Christian prison systems.
Yeah.
And I think it does rehabilitate some of those prisoners. There has to be more than 100% failure rate
Yeah.
than the guys I was dealing with in Gainesville at the work release place, because what he told me, and it stuck with me, it'll stick with me forever, is those guys, some of them would get to the exit point, they'd work with me for a year, and then it'd be the night they're going to get out. They let them out at midnight at 12:01 because they get paid for that extra day from the state system or whatever. And then at 12:01, it's midnight, which is when all the stuff goes down. It's the most rejected time, right? The worst time to come out with nothing. And the only people going to come pick them up are the people they used to hang out with that got in trouble to start with. So it's throwing them right back into the fire. And it just seems like such a vicious system. And it's privatized now, so even that, this is profit centered.
Yes.
Instead of, so it's so messed up. So I was playing back over the decades of going there and witnessing that, and as if it was them, and then I was like, okay, it's me. I'm just I'm on the cleaner side of it, but I can relate to it in Bhakti for my own self, getting dirty again every day, and knowing about the higher taste principle, and still not really clear on what that exactly means for me yet. I have some pluses because I love mornings and I like to chant. So I also, yesterday I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and as I was in a private, quiet place with the door shut, and my journal and my pen and my Bhagavatam, and I feel just so connected, and I feel clean and pure for once, for that moment, for those minutes. And I thought, why does this feel so good? How is this feeling so cleansing? I'm reading the pastime of Jadbarat. We know, we've talked about, but there's details and that we don't always talk about that. I'm going to share on Thursday. There's details that are strengthening and empowering in Bhakti. And it's just nice to know the rest of the story, so to speak. And so I was thinking, like I always do, I don't want to open the door. I don't want to go back out into the world, even though I went to a kirtan and I was with devotees. It's like the mind starts working, the people are around, there's energy, there's personalities, there's driving, there's traffic, there's all that stuff that it pulls all the...
It pulls.
Yeah.
It's still in the material context, and then it becomes a disturbance, and we lose that pure, joyful feeling.
Yeah, there's such a attraction for me to just stay home and lock the door kind of thing. And because I'm going to chant, and I'm going to get up early, I'm going to do Mangal Arti, and I'm going to read Bhagavatam. And so then the other things that require my time and energy are when I get to go test this good stuff.
Yes.
Right? Go practice it, so I'm not just, Prabhupada in Vrindavan, where it's easy when nobody's in the house and it's just me and Bhagavatam. It's easy. And my rounds are, and then I hear things, the phone, I'm getting messages this morning trying to do that and do that, and it's just, the mind just wanders off, and so I'm just like, really, it feels like I feel connected to whatever my past life was that got me the mercy that got me here, because this life, I shouldn't be here, I feel like. So I always, when I read Bhagavatam and I get really connected to Prabhupada, if you do 16 really good rounds and then you read Bhagavatam, it's like everything's perfect.
That's complete.
Yeah. So then I'm like, well, how is that even possible? And so I go, well, it has to be from something I don't know about. Not unlike Jabra, I don't remember anything, but something's back there.
Yes.
Because I couldn't have screwed around 50-something years of my life and then I get plunked right into Bhakti. Yeah. And all the books are right in front of me, and I'm at Prabhupada's house, and I've got teachers and friends, and like it's beautiful. So I enjoy thinking about that because it helps me see that this is true. Because I'm personally experiencing.
You can experience the truth of this aspect of the philosophy by personal experience.
And read and hear.
Yeah.
And then, it strengthens us, so when we do go outside the house or the cave or Vrindavan, we're equipped. And that root thing, that root underneath in me that gives me the crazy thoughts and memories and has me, and the good is everything's pulling and pulling, pulling and pushing, and then going, okay, well, I know this, I don't know it, but I know of it, and I had some grace. I've been given some grace, so I don't have an excuse.
You're feeling the weight of responsibility of that.
And it's still so hard. And I'm like, this is a good combination, a good recipe. I've got the subscription and the prescription and the recipe, right? And support. and it's still a struggle. And it's just a struggle. And so unless I lock the door and stay inside. And even then there can be struggle, but the struggle's mild, yeah. So I'm glad I'm not in the prison system of that I spoke of. But if I was, I would want someone to show up with this information. I know people do, so that I might have some hope. But I'm not that deep in it. I've got one foot in the other in the bhakti world, and so I just it's my now is where I have to step up. I have to do it. Like, I've already been given the grace, the books, the Prabhupada, the initiation, the friends, the support, and the rules and regulations that I'm aware of. And then it's, now it's me. I have to carry this. I get to carry this. And Krishna will carry what I don't have. I get that. But it's just a struggle. It's still just a struggle unless, in these 5 hours, it wasn't a struggle. This morning wasn't a struggle.
This morning, no, it's just natural bliss. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your sharing and your mentality, Lakshmi Priya. I personally relate, and Lakshmi Priya, let's step up together. Let's support each other to step up and to grab that lifeline with significantly greater urgency. And thanks for sharing that your experience with the prisoner employees. And what I'm hearing is the recidivism rate was 100%, because the desire to commit criminal activity is not pulled at the root. I'm reminded here, as part of this, is Srila Prabhupada talks about 4 types of learners. It relates here. First class learner, one hears, gets it. Okay, we can apply that to chanting the names of God, chanting Hare Krishna. Let's apply it to stealing. Someone hears, stealing isn't good. Got it. Okay. Second class learner hears, doesn't get it. No, because if I steal, then I'll have more money in my bank account. It should be fine. But then second class learner, but see someone else, oh, he stole, and he's in prison for 5 years. I get it. I'm not going to steal. Third class learner hears, doesn't get it. See someone else do it, get in trouble, still doesn't get it. Like, yeah, but he's not as smart as me. I'm going to find a way to steal, and I'm going to get away with it, and I'll have $1 million. Yeah, and then I end up in prison, and I get it. I'm not going to steal. I'm not going to steal. Okay, and then fourth class learner hears, doesn't get it. See someone else get in trouble, doesn't get it. Does it himself, still doesn't get it. The fourth learner is like, okay, but when I get out of prison, and this is Lakshmi Priya's example, when I'm getting out of prison at noon, well, at 12:01, I have this plan. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to be more clever than last time, and I'll get away with it. So then I'm back in prison for the 10th time. So that's fourth class learner just doesn't get it. So yeah. So again, this process of, and I don't know if I'll go there now, but probably you've heard Lakshmi Priya, my sharing about doing bhakti yoga programs in prisons at Eglin Air Force Base, and actually there's one fellow who invited me. He was in prison at the time, and he took to Prabhupada's movement and Prabhupada's bhakti. And I went there in 92, 93. We did some programs. He organized programs in the prison with bank managers who were in prison for embezzlement and United States representatives who were in prison for bribery and things. But then this fellow, I haven't had touch with him for about 15 years, but he came to Safato seminars and things like that. Hare Krishna. Rasamrita.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for class. I really appreciate the topic and where it went. And, okay. So there's a sentence in the purport that says, by the grace of the pure devotee. And then in your discussion, you're speaking of the causeless mercy, the causeless grace of God. And maybe I'm misremembering, right? But to treat our spiritual master same as God. And we get the same grace, we get the same mercy. So that compassion, you're speaking of the compassion that's given to the learner. And the thing that's coming to me, you had also mentioned, where is it my place to silently, like tolerate in silence, versus
When's it my time to
shine light?
to compassionately shine some light on some blind spots?
Yeah, and that discernment. And then, so this is true for me in my life. I've been thinking about this, and I suffer because I was thinking about, like, how do I discern? I don't understand, me being in some kind of illusion of confusion about it. How do I understand how to discern? And I understand that the answer is something to do with compassion. Now I'm going to put a hold there. I'm going to go to, we were recently in a class for chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. So 15:20 in the purport, it says something like, similar to this verse, we'll be freed from all our issues. How could you not want that?
Right.
Except for weaknesses of the heart, it describes.
Right.
And then it says that there's two weaknesses of the heart. One is to lord over material nature.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, through lording over material nature, we also desire material benefit, basically.
Right. Yes. I'm the controller. I'm the enjoyer. Sure. That'll be more described in chapter 16. Swaram Hambogi. Yeah. I'm the Lord, and I'm the enjoyer. Yeah.
And so I'm directly correlating that with the distinction in being a teacher, wife, when you're taking responsibility of other, to the extent that we're not compassionate, empathetic, or maybe lustful instead for what distinction, admiration, something, then we're the first weakness of the heart. I'm trying to lord over. Yeah. So this is the things that are coming up for me, and that's more, I guess, of a comment.
Sure.
And then may I ask you, I do have a question. May I ask you to read the last sentence of the purport of this verse?
Sure. Okay. It says, only by the grace of pure devotees can such unfortunate men be elevated to the position of transcendental service.
Maybe it wasn't the last sentence. It was a sentence that was saying something like, through supernatural control.
Yeah. The only answer to this question is that they are unfortunate because of supernatural control due to their offensive activities performed simply for the sake of sense gratification.
So I don't understand that sentence in regards to, because of supernatural control. What I think I understand is, all right, God is graceful. And, if he says, yeah, don't touch the stove, it's hot. And you're like, but I really want to touch the stove, it's hot. And he's like, really don't think you're gonna have a good time, but you know, like you have your, you get to choose. Is this kind of what it's talking about? Like, yeah.
Okay, well, okay, yeah. Thanks for your sharing, Rasamita. Supernatural control. Let's understand it through the prison system analogy. Okay, so supernatural. It's not like, oh, you know, it's a very, we can understand in a very grounded way. So yes, yes. So we have choice. So let's say we choose to violate people's rights. We murder. We steal. Okay, things like that. All right. So then I'm responsible for the consequences. So then supernatural control, which basically means the whole system of the police and the state and the laws and the prison system, through higher control, I'm going to end up in a particular cell, and the court system. It's not just like, it's just like random chance, something supernatural. No, I committed an act. I chose to violate people's rights, steal and murder and things. Okay, then once I do that, then I'm under the control of higher powers. So then I'm in a cell. So it's like, it's not my fault I'm in the cell. It was just supernatural control. No. I came under the control of the police and the court system and the judge and the jury and I came under the supernatural control because I chose to violate people's rights. So if I choose to be offensive and I choose to violate the laws of the supreme facilitator, the supreme king, then I'm going to come under the prison system of existence, which is called Durga. And yeah, so that's it. As far as, you know, it can certainly be a challenging discretion. When is it my role to tolerate in silence? And when, in the name of tolerating in silence, am I just not courageous enough to speak up? And when is it my role to speak up? And when, in the name of speaking up and pointing things out, am I really coming from compassion? Or am I really coming from, I want to lord it over you. I want to lord it over you. And I want to enjoy seeing you suffer and you feel shame. So I want to point out your faults. Well, I'm in the name of compassion and I just care about your personal growth. So these are subtle distinctions that are powerful for actual pulling the weeds from the garden of the heart. You know, let's say if someone comes to be like a coaching client of mine, or they come to a Safetov seminar. All right, there's some implicit permission to, like, you give me some implicit permission to give you feedback. Okay. Same time, sometimes, often, I'll explicitly ask permission. If I think sharing my perceptions are going to go to sensitive places, I might specifically ask permission. It would be okay, I have some perceptions I'd like to share. Just like this lady after the initiation yoga, she said, that was great. Can I give you some feedback? She asked permission. I said, sure. Oh, 15 points, okay. So, yeah, and then even if I get permission and they're fully ready, I want to hear your perception of me, including, you know, where I got my shadow side, where I'm messing up. Then I want to check myself out. Am I truly coming from a caring place? Or am I coming from top down? I am superior in some way. Am I really coming from humble compassion? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Crystal clear.
Thank you. Any other sharing? Ananta Shakti.
Hi, Krishna.
Haribo.
Yeah, I found it interesting to hear you speaking about sin and offenses.
Yeah, I don't go there much, but
yeah.
the verse went there, so I couldn't avoid it. Hare Krishna.
And yeah, I took a note for sin, and I noted like anything that sabotaged myself and others.
Yeah.
You said that, right? And it feels heavy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sin is in general like a heavy word.
It's a
Because
heavy word, yeah.
of course sin is not good, it's bad.
Yeah.
And So there's like the big sins, the very bad things I can do. And then this is again like so subtle, like anything that sabotages myself and others. And it's very much connected for me to my Sattva 3 experience. And
Yeah.
and yeah, and just with that, and because so I'm very often sinful because I experience myself like sabotaging myself and others very often. And this
Yeah.
is not how I
Yeah.
envision myself.
Yeah, we can think, well, I've never murdered anyone. I'm not sinful,
Mm-hmm.
or things like that. St. Augustine's quote, yeah, we're not punished for sin, we're punished by sin. So like, yeah, Nanta Shakti, anytime you're wallowing in any sort of grungy for some payoff, you're sinful. And it's true. And that's for me too, because the idea is that, okay, because the ultimate purpose for spiritual beings having a human experience is to support the self, to turn towards itself and self-realization, to turn towards super soul, and to live aligned with the principles of goodness and pure goodness. So anything we do, Safatov terminology, grungy, self-defeating games, self-defeating tapes, avoidance strategies, looking good stuff, all this alienating stuff. And then, as St. Augustine said, we're punished by sin. Because as soon as I act or think in a grungy way, in a way that's toxic, even if it's subtle and it's not murdering someone, but I immediately feel shame, alienation, and that's my understanding of what St. Augustine's meaning from by we're punished by sin. And then that's not meant to be, oh no, no, I'll just I'll be suffering for millions of lifetimes, but then yeah, that shame, that alienation, that depression, that insecurity, that debilitating anxiety. Okay, that's a message. That's a message. That's a message that I'm off track somewhere. So let me
Mm-hmm.
get back on track. And so Srila Prabhupada, in at least two places in Bhagavad Gita, in his purports, he talks about violence. And he's essentially, he says, like, yeah, anything we're doing that's not supporting self-realization and Krishna consciousness, we're wasting each other's time, and that's violence. We can somewhat use as synonyms of violence or sin. So when we get into it, yeah, we're all sinful wretches. Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And when you were talking about the offenses, you made two groups, like the innocent ones and then like the more serious one.
Yeah.
And then you said like not interfere with a sincere devotee doing his service, that Krishna is not liking that. And then my son entered the room and was talking to me, and I did not hear what you said. And I wanted to ask you if you can just give an example, or like, what do you mean with like
Okay.
interfering
Um,
doing his service?
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Not that we want to take lightly innocent offenses, but then the more severe offenses, if we're trying to pull down, someone who's sincerely endeavoring to serve God and engage in self-realization out of our own maliciousness and envy, which of course we won't admit to. And no, I'm just doing it because, but okay. An example I used to give in the old days, this goes back 40 years, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe other, like in the temple, and we would have like book distribution parties. And Srila Prabhupada would encourage what he called transcendental competition. He would encourage transcendental competition. And so like a book distribution team distributing more transcendental literature than another team, and he would encourage that spirit. Okay, so yeah, I want to, you gave 200 books in that week, I'm going to give 300. oh, okay. And even if it's not purely motivated, because then I want to be honored. Okay, but then we get purified by giving ourselves to the service. But that's different than that. It's different. Yeah, I'll be even more dedicated. I'm gonna be so focused. I'm gonna get more books than you today. Great. That's different than I'm gonna make sure I win the competition because your book distribution van might just happen to get a flat tire.
Mhm.
Okay, so that would be an offense. It's not like, oh, I'm inspired to do more service than you, and even if it's materially motivated, still fine. But then if it's like, I'm going to stop you from doing service, I'm going to give a flat tire, or if, let's say a devotee's humbly doing service, or someone's blaspheming Srila Prabhupada out of envy, or any devotees doing service, and then we gossip about them because we want others to think badly of them, and we want to create some drama to bring them down so we can feel better about ourselves in a shadow way. Those are some examples.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ananta Shakti. Sylvan.
So, as you're mentioning Srila Prabhupada encouraging competition,
Yeah.
okay, so I see the point. It's like playful, and yeah, let's get more people to get the books, and let's get more people to find freedom and find bhakti, and okay. And and my sense is, what is that modeling? You know, how 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 are how are people gonna relate to that competition, and how much is that not gonna actually support increase that less than sattvic way, because here we're not in Vrindavan, meaning we're dealing with all of us being sinful.
Yeah.
And so with that encouragement, I'm really dubious about the yeah, simply the modeling, because just like children learn, children aren't taught, children learn because they want to learn, and what they learn is what is modeled, not what is being taught. You've got a way of putting that one out. And well, in this realm, we're all children, and yeah, I've got real doubts about these methods.
Thank you, Sylvan. I appreciate what you're sharing. We've quoted St. Augustine about sin earlier. Another quote from St. Augustine: never judge a philosophy by its abuse. So yeah, that idea, the pure idea of transcendental competition, can it be misused? Yeah. Can it be abused? Can it be exploited? Yes. Has it been? Yeah. Yeah. So is there danger? Is there a risk? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, transcendental competition, if you look at the residents of Vrindavan, there's transcendental competition. The cowherd boys are wrestling with each other. They're running races, and who's going to win? The gopis are competing with each other. Who's going to serve? But it's all in a spirit of encouraging deeper and deeper loving devotion. It's not, again, like related to our banyan tree discussion yesterday. Like it's not about taking our material conceptions of competition and dominance and greed and lust and envy. We don't want to misapply it. So Srila Prabhupada did sometimes encourage the transcendental competition mood, in the spirit of Vrindavan, not imitating it, but aspiring for that spirit. And can it be misused? And has it been? Yeah. So true.
And I'm curious. I mean, what comes to me is how pure was Srila Prabhupada's. Go on.
Lakshmi, there's containers of prasad in the fridge on the bottom shelf. Maybe you could take a container of prasad. And also in the drawer next in my room, there's an envelope for you in Anasuya. In my office, in the top drawer. Please continue, Sylvia.
I can't help but consider, and that's very present for
Yeah,
me. I was at it for hours this morning, um, on writing to you.
I saw. I
If you,
have some emails from you. I saw.
yeah, this was hours of work. Uh, when you love what you do, you'll never have to work. That's
Yeah.
really how it was this morning. Um, But so yeah, it's very present for me, and I'm really questioning. I'm really questioning. So there is culture, and I've spent some time in India, and and I've never understood the culture. It's not a world for me over there. It was good to visit and be, but so maybe that's what I'm not getting, and and yeah, I'm dubious as to the basically this competition for the books. Is it um um what's the word, conversion at all cost, like just like let's do conversion because my way is the best way, is the only way, and that definitely is worth um just breaking some basics.
Well, this gets to a related but different topic. No, it's not conversion at all costs. I know Prabhupada wasn't interested in converting. He's interested in convergence. It's compassion at all costs. So it's not just transcendental competition on numbers of books. It's transcendental competition on plates of prasad distributed. Transcendental competition on chanting japa attentively. It's about giving this compassionate process for persons to engage in bhakti and pull out at the very root the desires that keep us entrapped in the misery of the reflected banyan tree. So it's compassion at all costs. I mean, I say that with 100% certainty. That's where Prabhupada's coming from. He has Prabhupada, there's nothing in Prabhupada, I'll be celebrated as a great author, I'll be famous. Nothing there. You don't need to accept my word, but it's compassion at all cost. And what Prabhupada did, he gave opportunities, and those opportunities can be embraced in glorious ways, or they can be exploited. So let's say Prabhupada would establish a center. He would have a managerial system, say with a temple president and a vice president and a director to train newcomers, a wonderful system. And then Prabhupada would give opportunity, and maybe some in the role of temple president would just manage everything in completely responsible ways, would be so inspiring, and someone else in the same position would embezzle money, or let's say if some young ladies were joined, he would exploit them in different ways. So Prabhupada would give opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities were misused and abused. As far as where Prabhupada's coming from, I'm clear about that, and we each get to make our determinations.
Thank you, David. I think it's also potentially character and what I tend to react to and less to, and so the way you present Bhakti is like, yeah, that makes sense, and then somebody else maybe with exactly the same motives, but coming with a red shirt instead, and it's like, a bit like that. So yeah, I'll just keep checking.
Thank you, Sylvan. I appreciate your philosophical exploration along with your personal introspection, and I appreciate, as always, our exchanges. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Bol.